Good evening and welcome to Gravitas. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Let's get started.
Gravitas, co-presented by Skoda Superb, best in next class. Co-powered by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist.
It's Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to all of you. But there's no stopping the news cycle and the nefarious plans of some countries. Countries like Pakistan. Pakistan is now pumping dirty money into the UK, or has been for a while, but the world has woken up to the fact now. The UK government, to be more precise, their own Home Ministry has come out with a report which says Pakistan siphons dirty money linked to drug cartels and terror activities into the United Kingdom. Countries like China and Russia have also been named here. None of it is surprising. Pakistan's record on terror financing speaks for itself. But the report also underlines something that we have been talking about on the show. The problems with the UK, how Britain is becoming a global hub for black money and for shady individuals of all descriptions, tax evaders and despots. The report says they buy assets in the UK, turn black money into white. We'll discuss all of that. And a story that's developing and we'll be tracking very closely, the situation in Nashville, where an explosion has injured at least 3 people, a massive explosion. The local police say it was a quote-unquote significant and intentional blast. They're not calling it an attack yet. They're calling it a significant and intentional blast. And one of the officials apparently has said that it may have been a bomb. We do not know yet. The updates are still coming in, and that's a story we are tracking. Also on the show tonight, dangerous mutations of the Wuhan virus surface in many parts of the globe. None in India yet, but the government has intensified genome sequencing to detect mutations. The most alarming story you may have heard today, microplastics found in unborn babies now. That's how far plastic pollution has reached. More heat on Vladimir Putin's detractor Alexei Navalny. Months after he was poisoned, he claims to have exposed the Kremlin's hand in his poisoning, and now his close ally is being raided. And a quiet Christmas around the globe, with the hope that the year ahead is brighter and happier. We begin as always with Gravitas Global Headlines.
Nepal's top court, while hearing petitions on the dissolution of the parliament, has asked the government to explain its actions within 10 days, even as the country's poll panel has started the process to settle the dispute over the legitimacy of the ruling party after the Prachanda faction of the Nepal Communist Party demanded to be recognized as the official NCP. The Indian and Vietnamese navies are all set to undertake the PASEX or Passage exercise on the 26th and 27th of December in the South China Sea. The PASEX exercises are the first since the Galwan clash between India and China earlier this year. India and Vietnam have increased high-level engagement, including defense cooperation, amid China's growing expansionist policies. Protests over the mysterious death of prominent Baloch activist Karima Baloch have intensified. Protesters gathered outside the Toronto police headquarters, calling for a high-level investigation. The Human Rights Watch has said that Pakistan's role needs to be thoroughly investigated. According to reports, the U.S. State Department has notified the Congress that it is moving forward with issuing a license for the sale of precision-guided bombs to Saudi Arabia. The decision comes in the final days of President Trump's tenure, even though it has been opposed by lawmakers across party lines amid reports of human rights violations in the country. The longtime leader of Mali's opposition, Somela Sise, has died at the age of 71. A former finance minister who finished runner-up in the 2013 and 2018 presidential elections was considered among the favourites in a vote expected in early 2022. Syrian air defences intercepted missiles fired by Israel in the western province of Hama, according to state news agency Sana. Reports say the Israelis were trying to target positions of Syrian forces and Iran-backed militias. South Korea has recorded its highest daily coronavirus caseload with more than 1,200 infections in the last 24 hours. South Korea had early success in controlling outbreaks with aggressive testing and contact tracing, but has struggled to contain the recent surge in cases. Pope Francis delivered his traditional Christmas address to the world virtually in order to limit the number of people gathering in St. Peter's Square. In accordance with the COVID-19 restrictions, the Pope will not be making appearances in St. Peter's Square throughout the holiday season.
The Indian cricket team has made 4 changes for the Boxing Day test against Australia in Melbourne starting Saturday. Shubman Gill and Mohammad Siraj will make their debuts in place of the out-of-form Prithvi Shaw and the injured Mohammad Shami. All-rounder Ravindra Jadeja has been brought into the side in place of captain Virat Kohli, while Rishabh Pant will play as wicketkeeper in place of Ridhwan Saha. Ajinkya Rahane will skipper the team for only the 3rd time. English top-flight side Manchester City are facing a mini COVID-19 outbreak with 2 players and 2 staff members testing positive. The club confirmed that Brazilian forward Gabriel Jesus and right-back Kyle Walker are the 2 players in question. Both featured in the 4-1 win over Arsenal in the League Cup quarter-final on Tuesday. The 2 players are in isolation and ruled out of upcoming games against Newcastle United, Everton and Chelsea.
We're starting with breaking news tonight, which is coming in from the US. We're picking up reports of an explosion, a massive explosion in Nashville. It happened in the downtown area. Reportedly, a vehicle exploded at 6:30 a.m. local time. These are the first images that you're looking at. We do not know if this was an attack, if this was a terrorist attack or not. But the local police is describing this blast as quote-unquote significant and intentional. This is early in the morning, 6:30 a.m. The area has now been sealed off. Reports say the blast shook the entertainment district in Nashville, downtown Nashville. At least 3 people have been hurt. The Nashville mayor spoke to the press just a few minutes back, and what he has said is very, very significant. He said this looks like a bomb blast. But we do not have an official confirmation on that just yet. This, as we said, is a developing story. It's Christmas Day, early morning in Nashville in the US. A massive blast has rocked this area, the entertainment district. 3 people have been injured. The area has been sealed off. Reports are still coming in. Officials are investigating the cause of the blast. They've called it significant and intentional, which is worrying. What is an intentional blast? They've not called it an attack yet. The mayor of Nashville saying that it may have been a bomb. These, as I said, are the first images of a situation that is still unfolding as we speak. Nashville in the US. A major explosion in the entertainment district. This is a story we'll be tracking very closely. We're waiting for more updates to come in and for an official confirmation on what this could have been. 3 people injured so far. And this is our cover story tonight. Pakistan has a reputation, the state sponsor of terrorism. It now has a new feather in its cap. It leads the pack of countries washing dirty money in Britain. Pakistan is funneling terror funds into the UK. This is according to Britain's own investigation. The report was released by the UK Treasury Department. It is called the National Risk Assessment of Money Laundering and Terror Financing 2020. That's the name of the report. It shows how the United Kingdom has become a hub for Pakistani dirty money and how criminals and terrorists exploit the loopholes in the British financial system. It's a long report. On page 35 of this report, there is a section specifically on Pakistan. It describes how the UK's close economic links with Pakistan are hurting the country. The report says the economic links are enabling the transfer of illicit funds in disguise. That's code for black money, illicit funds in disguise. The British report also says that Pakistani criminals are using these routes. They're buying high-value assets like real estate, like precious gems and jewelry to launder money. Where is this money coming from? The report says these are proceeds from corruption and drug trafficking. So criminals siphon dirty money into the UK, where they buy assets like jewels and property and turn the illicit cash they have into legitimate assets. Pakistanis are doing this. But they're not the only ones doing this. The report names other countries and regions like China, Hong Kong, Russia and the UAE. The report shows what we have long been reporting. The UK's financial system is flawed. It helps those with black money. Let me explain how this works. The biggest problem is how cash is transferred. If you've ever visited the United Kingdom, you would have seen money remittance and foreign exchange shops on the streets, especially in areas with a high number of immigrants. Because immigrants use these shops to send money home, which is fine. But some shops, apparently, also facilitate drug trade and violent crime. Background checks for fund transfers are practically non-existent. According to one claim, these shops, and I'm quoting, rarely ask for proof of address and sources of funds. And it's not just these small shops. Even the big banks in the United Kingdom have been accused of enabling money laundering. Let me show you a report from September this year. Reuters reported this. It said that banks like HSBC, Barclays and Standard Chartered are under scrutiny. They allegedly transferred, and listen to this, more than $2 trillion worth of suspect funds in nearly 2 decades. $2 trillion. This information came out when a cache of documents was leaked. And all of this makes the United Kingdom a hub for dirty cash. And the money trail leads to criminals, to gangs, to drug traffickers and to terrorists. It does not help that Britain has opened its banks and financial institutions to countries like Pakistan. There is a reason why most countries don't do business with Pakistan, don't give it loans. There is a reason why foreign investors keep their distance. And forget everyone else, even China wants guarantees from Pakistan for new loans. Perhaps this will be a wake-up call for Britain. As for Pakistan, its record with money is exceptional. It is, after all, the global headquarters of terror financing. It has been on the FATF grey list for more than 2 years. It should be on the blacklist. But it isn't. Like most international institutions and mechanisms, this too is turning out to be a bit of a farce. The Financial Action Task Force, the global terror financing watchdog, has proved to be toothless. In the last 2 years, Pakistan has failed every assessment spectacularly. Yet it evades the blacklist, continues to operate terror factories. Our next report tells you how Pakistan has gamed the FATF.
June 2018. Pakistan was put on a grey list for terror financing. It was given 2 years to clean up its act and 27 action points to deliver on. The deadline passed this year. In October 2020, a review was conducted and Pakistan failed. It had not fulfilled 6 key obligations. A blacklist was certain. But it did not happen. Pakistan was saved again, given another extension. Now it has time till February 2021. Is Pakistan demolishing its terror factories? Far from it. It is demolishing the credibility of the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, the global watchdog on terror financing that has proved to be toothless against a terror state. To get off the grey list, Pakistan must block funding to UN-designated terror groups. Groups like the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. It has done none of this. The FATF assessment says as much, and yet Pakistan remains out of the blacklist. Since June 2018, it has got 3 extensions, plus a 4-month grace period. So how did it use this time? By pulling wool over the eyes of the watchdog. Pakistan has mastered the art. 1 month before the FATF meeting, Pakistan froze 964 properties of terror groups like the Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. In February, Hafiz Saeed was sentenced to more than 5 years in jail. In August, 3 of his associates were jailed by a court in Lahore. All this happened just before the FATF meeting in October. But the trials and the crackdown was just an eyewash. All the sentences against Hafiz Saeed and his allies are now under appeal. The terror activities of the Jaish-e-Mohammed continue. Recently, intelligence sources told WION that the group has resumed its terror camps in Balakot. A video recently surfaced from one of these camps, where anti-India slogans were raised. Two weeks back, Pakistan managed to secure a concession for Zakir Rahman Lakhvi, the operations head of the Lashkar-e-Taiba and one of the masterminds behind the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. Reports say Islamabad has been permitted to pay Lakhvi 1.5 lakh Pakistani rupees every month. Pakistan's next review is now barely 2 months away. Once again, Islamabad has begun constructing another smokescreen. This week, Hafiz Saeed was sentenced to 15 years in jail in another case. But his network of terrorists still remains intact. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
And while taking Pakistan to task for money laundering is very important, it is equally important to question the complicity of the country the money is being funneled into. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, much like its grand name, the UK is a grand hub for dirty money, a playground for financial fraudsters. But Britain's denial about this fact is like Russia's denial that it poisons its spies. No one, absolutely nobody, believes a word of it, and here's why. I'll give you a few reasons. Number one, the world's most notorious tax fugitives are hiding in Britain. Bad boy Indian billionaires, absconding Pakistani politicians, corrupt Arab sheikhs, African despots, Russian oligarchs, you name it, all kind of runaway rich men and women have found refuge in the UK. The second reason, and this one's important, the inaction of the British financial regulator, the Financial Control Authority, or FCA. According to Corruption Watch, this body has brought 0 prosecutions over money laundering since 2017, not a single prosecution. And this year, this very same body took its inaction one step further. It discontinued 7 out of 14 of its criminal investigations into possible breaches of the UK's Money Laundering Act 2020. In simpler words, they've shut half their cases. Reason number 3, the presence of offshore tax havens like the British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, Gibraltar, Jersey, Guernsey. These are places where the looted money is routed to. They allow fraudsters to avoid paying billions in tax on their profits. In fact, Britain is the world's greatest enabler of corporate tax avoidance. According to the Corporate Tax Haven Index, Britain's offshore havens account for more than a third of the world's corporate tax avoidance at $395 billion. $395 billion. That is 4 times more than any country in the world. Then we come to the fourth reason, and this is the ultimate clincher, you could say, the UK's property market. It's a fascinating story. It is a prime target for money laundering. London's most expensive homes have become a prime location to hide dirty cash. Let me explain how this works. Thousands of these homes are sitting empty. The most recent government figures show that more than 278 278,000 homes. 278,000 homes are sitting empty across England, Scotland and Wales. At least 22,000 of these homes are in London. They've been empty for years. Let me show you a breakup of these homes across London. The value of these houses is estimated to be £12.2 billion. That's close to $16 billion. Scores of these empty houses have been purchased by financial fraudsters. Take a look at this report released by the British government once again. This report categorically mentions that criminals from Pakistan, and I'm quoting, criminals from Pakistan continue to purchase high-value assets such as real estate to launder illicit funds. There are more than 500 properties that have been identified as being bought with suspicious wealth and a combined value of £5 billion. That's $6 billion at least. And this is just a fraction of the real value of dirty money hidden in the UK's property market. So this is what we have: a corrupt financial regulator, offshore tax havens, and a real estate market hijacked by fraudsters. The Great Britain is one of the world's biggest hubs for dirty money. And now, by its own admission, Pakistani dirty money. Meanwhile, the mutant Wuhan virus strain is spreading. Days after Britain reported multiple cases of this mutated virus, similar Wuhan virus strains have been discovered in multiple parts of the world. But there are some countries where the identified variants are entirely different. Which are these countries, and what are they doing to prevent more infections? How rapidly is the new strain spreading? And what about India? Where does India stand? Has the mutated virus reached India as well? The answers to all these questions lie in our next report.
A new strain of the Wuhan virus is spreading. An advanced and scarier version. The first victim was the United Kingdom. Britain detected the first cases in September. And by November, the cases increased to a quarter of the total. By December, 2/3 of the total infections were of the mutant virus, and the infections are still rising. The lockdown is back. There are travel restrictions. International flights have been banned, and some countries are preparing themselves for the same. In South Africa, a new strain of the virus has caused a surge in infections. Officials say the variant is different from the one identified in Britain, but it carries the same mutations and is equally infectious. On Thursday, the South African Health Ministry registered a record 14,305 cases of the new strain. It is infecting not just adults, but younger people with no existing medical conditions, and it's spreading quickly.
In terms of how dangerous this virus is, this is what we know about the virus so far. It transmits quickly. That is why it's actually responsible for a vast majority of the second wave in South Africa. The viral loads are higher. That is, the burden of virus in an infected individual is higher amongst people that are infected with this variant.
In Nigeria, another mutant strain of the Wuhan virus has been discovered. This one is entirely different from the strains identified in the UK and South Africa, but there's little evidence about whether it is more infectious or potent than the original virus. The only thing evident is the spike in cases. The African Center for Disease Control says that cases in Nigeria have risen by 52%. In Israel, the health ministry has detected 3 cases of the new strain in individuals who had recently returned from the UK. The infected have been sent to government-run quarantine centers, but the Israeli Prime Minister is not taking any chances. He has declared that the mutant strain could already be spreading.
At the moment, we need to assume that the virus is spreading here. The good news is that the assessments of the companies that are supplying us with vaccines are that there is a high but not absolute likelihood that these vaccines will deal with the mutation as well. We will know this in a few days, and we have no guarantee that this will be the case, but we need to wait in order to know the full scale of it.
Several other countries have reported cases of the new strain. In Europe, Austria, Denmark, Germany, Italy and the Netherlands have identified patients with the mutant strain. Australia too has reported cases of the mutated virus detected in the UK. And in Asia, only Malaysia has identified the new Wuhan virus strain, similar to what was found in Australia and South Africa. In India, no cases of the mutant strain have been reported, but the government is not taking any chances. At least 6 labs across the country are conducting genome sequencing tests to detect the presence of the mutant strain. 2020 may be about to end, but the pandemic is far from over. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
This is the most important story of the day, perhaps also the most alarming of the day. Microplastics found in a fetus. A pre-polluted baby. I know it sounds horrific, and I'm doing it on purpose to drive home the horror that we are unleashing on the next generation. We may have the latest technology, we may have money, top-notch healthcare, but we are still killing our children with plastic, choking their future. Plastic is on the streets, in the oceans, the mountains, in the wildlife, with a seahorse. Microplastics have touched the deep sea. Even sunlight has not been able to do that. There is plastic in Point Nemo, the most remote spot in the ocean. Plastic has been found in a dead whale's stomach, in every single sea turtle that researchers have tested. There is plastic in Antarctica too. Plastic was also found stuck around the neck of a seal, entangled around the beak of a stork. On the French Pyrenees, in bottled water, in human stool, there was plastic in the stomach of a water flea. And now there is plastic in the human placenta. Microplastics have found their way to the home of an unborn baby. This is a first. It's never happened before. The placenta is crucial to a fetus's development. It is supposed to provide oxygen to the baby, provide nutrition. Microplastics have polluted it. Researchers examined the placenta of 6 women. All had normal pregnancies and birth. But what researchers found was shocking. There was microplastic particles in 4 placentas, both on the fetal and maternal side. Microplastics were also found in the membrane within which the fetus develops. Let that sink in. Researchers analyzed 4% of each placenta and they found a dozen plastic particles in each. Now imagine the total volume of plastic in the entire placenta. The plastics came in different colors: red, blue, orange, pink. They also came bearing threat to the babies. 2 years ago, a whale died from eating 80 plastic bags. Last year, the world lost a baby dugong to plastic. So many other marine animals have met the same fate. Imagine then what plastics can do to a human fetus. Experts say that microplastics could carry harmful chemicals. They can upset the fetus's immune system, reduce the fetus's growth, even cause long-term damage. Microplastics found in these placentas were around 10 microns in size. That's around 0.01 millimeters, small enough to be carried in the bloodstreams. What about the babies? Are they healthy? The researchers have not been able to assess that yet. But they say microplastics could have entered their bodies. Cyborg baby. That's what the researchers are calling them. It's like having a cyborg baby, no longer composed only of human cells, but a mixture of biological and inorganic entities. That's what the lead researcher of the study said. How do microplastic particles enter human placentas to begin with? Scientists say they may have been inhaled or consumed by the mothers. They could have come from paints, packaging, cosmetics. and personal care products, things that all of us use all over the world all the time. 6 mothers were studied as part of this project. Plastic was found in the placenta of 4. It is a small sample size, yes, but significant in terms of probability, 4 out of 6. How do you know it may not happen to you or someone you know? So let me ask you again, is this world safe enough for our children? We cannot provide a safe home for them even in our wombs. Once the baby is born, you cannot feed her milk because there is plastic there too. Fruits and vegetables are coated with wax and infused with chemicals. Meat has harmful growth hormones. The air has pollution. The water has chemicals. Forget achieving super immunity. Today, keeping our children healthy has become a challenge. Let me end with this. In most mythologies, the earth is referred to as a mother. Mother Earth, we say. Her womb has been polluted with plastic. And now, so is the womb of human mothers. Real life in Russia can be more thrilling sometimes than a Hollywood film. Here's one example. An explosive revelation has triggered a crackdown. At the center of the story is opposition leader Alexei Navalny, the same man who was poisoned a few months back. Navalny has long been a political detractor of Russian President Vladimir Putin. He was poisoned with a nerve agent. Now, Navalny says that he has established the Kremlin's hand in this poisoning. He says he has tricked a Russian agent into revealing how he was poisoned. Moscow, of course, has rubbished this, refusing to investigate Navalny's poisoning. But Russia has now opened a probe against one of his allies. Here's a report.
I called my killer. He confessed everything. This tweet leads to a video. An extraordinary scene where Alexei Navalny is on the phone speaking to a man who was allegedly involved in the plot to poison him.
В нашей работе, сами понимаете, вопросов и нюансов всегда очень много, и все учитывать, стараемся всегда по максимальному, чтобы не было никаких просчетов и так далее. Сами понимаете, да?
Navalny says the man is Konstantin Kudryavtsev, an operative of Russia's FSB, the Federal Security Service, and the successor to the infamous KGB. This man was tricked into revealing how Navalny was poisoned in August this year.
И больше месяца назад мы уже нашим отделом расследований сначала внимательно изучили и перепроверили всю работу Bellingcat, а потом и сами подключились к ней.
In this phone call, Navalny is pretending to be a senior officer from Russia's National Security Council. He began by trying to convince the operative that an investigation is underway into the poisoning.
Вы ездили в Омск 25 числа. В Томске была операция. И сейчас я составляю короткую версию рапорта, что там случилось. Попозже Владимир Михайлович попросит вас написать длинную версию. Я понимаю, что это в очередной раз. Но руководство для Совета Безопасности просит меня подготовить документы сейчас. Поэтому, если вы мне очень сильно поможете и не будете задерживать Николая Платоновича.
Convinced by this introduction, the FSB agent describes how Navalny was allegedly poisoned. He said the nerve agent Novichok was applied to Navalny's underpants. Navalny claims that he now knows the identities of all those who were involved in the operation. But the Kremlin rubbishes this investigation. A government spokesperson said Navalny suffers from megalomania. At the same time, Russian authorities have opened a criminal probe into Lyubov Sobol, an ally of Navalny. Sobol is being accused of violent trespassing. For Moscow, Navalny's poisoning remains a non-issue. Russia is not investigating the charges. But earlier this month, Russian President Vladimir Putin did admit that the FSB was trailing Navalny around Russia. For now, Putin's most famous political detractor is in Germany. He is still recovering but has vowed to return to Russia and continue his fight against the Putin administration. You haven't heard the end of this. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Before I begin my next story, I want you to take a look at something. A video message by Daniel Pearl's parents, Mrs. Ruth Pearl and Judy Pearl. Here it is.
Salam alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak.
Daniel Pearl. Since 2002, when our son was kidnapped and murdered in Pakistan, our life has been upside down. There's not a single thing that we don't miss our son. I'm going to let my husband do the speaking because I have a problem in my vocal cord.
The clip you just saw is from May 2020. It was sent to the Supreme Court of Pakistan. The Pearl family wanted Pakistan's top court to reverse a decision by the Sindh High Court, a decision that overturned the conviction of their son's killers. In September, a two-judge bench assembled and it barred the Sindh government from releasing these killers. We are in the month of December now, and the Sindh High Court has ordered the immediate release of Daniel Pearl's killers. It has ordered the release of the man you see on your screen, Ahmad Omar Saeed Sheikh. He is a terrorist. He is set to walk free. An American journalist was kidnapped and beheaded in 2002. His body was cut into pieces and buried. His killers were sent to prison by Pakistan's judiciary. 18 years later, the very same judiciary says these men are innocent. On Saturday, that is the 26th of December, Daniel Pearl's murderers will be set free. His parents have once again appealed to the Supreme Court of Pakistan. They say they have full confidence in Pakistan's judiciary to provide justice for their beloved son. They say they expect the Supreme Court to reinforce the paramount importance of the freedom of the press. But their appeal seems to have fallen on deaf ears. The Supreme Court of Pakistan has not said a word in response. And the lawyers for the convicts say it is unlikely to happen because apparently there is no evidence against the terrorists. No evidence, no conspiracy. Listen to this.
The court has asked a very specific and pertinent question, and that is that the first charge in the indictment was of conspiracy. Where is the evidence of conspiracy? Because your own witness who participated in that meeting where you say the conspiracy took place, he says that no conspiracy was hashed in that meeting.
You heard that. There was no conspiracy. Then why were they in prison for 18 years? The US State Department has taken note of this absolute travesty of justice. It has said, and I quote, "We are deeply concerned by the ruling of the Sindh High Court to release multiple terrorists responsible for the murder of Daniel Pearl. We have been assured that the accused have not been released at this time." Well, we know that. We have been assured. We all know how assurances from Pakistan turn out to be. The Pakistan government claims it has filed an appeal against the release. The Sindh government says it is going to challenge the order as well. But we are just hours away from the release of the convicts. And even if the court's ruling is repealed, chances of which are abysmally low, the fact that a court in Pakistan thinks that crimes like murder carried out by known terrorists do not matter after 18 years says a whole lot about how crippled and corrupt the system really is. Daniel Pearl's murderers must not walk free. They must not be set free, and the world must oppose their release.
We have filed an appeal of this decision to the Pakistani Supreme Court. We are standing up for justice, not only for our son, but for all our dear friends in Pakistan, so they can live in a society free of violence and terror and raise their children in peace and harmony.
They say one man's trash is another man's treasure. Not always, though. Look at Tunisia. Containers full of trash from Italy are raising a stink in Tunisia. Delivery of tons of household waste has sparked suspicion of dirty dealings. Crime-driven pollution, that's what they're calling it, crime-driven pollution. It is growing bigger by the day, and the developing world is paying a price for it. Our next report has more.
Hundreds of containers of household waste shipped from Italy to the northern African nation of Tunisia. These containers were supposed to be carrying plastic scraps for recycling. Instead, they came filled with rotten household waste.
The waste that is currently in these containers is collected household waste, which according to the treaty is classified as hazardous waste and should not be exported to developing countries that are unable to treat it.
Tunisia's law is clear. Such waste cannot be imported into the country. The Italian trash has triggered a storm. Tunisia's waste problem is massive. It struggles with its own waste, most of which ends up in open-air landfills. The country's environment minister was sacked and then arrested. Another 22 people are also being questioned. The charges? Trying to import hazardous waste.
The import of this waste was done without going through the official channels requiring pre-approval and without obtaining authorization from the official services responsible for importing this type of waste.
The containers from Italy have been seized, but Tunisia isn't the only country struggling with this. The global trade in waste is a murky business. Illegal waste is the new money minter. Organized criminal networks have jumped in, and most of the waste ends up in developing countries. Shipments are concealed as non-hazardous and as clean plastic waste. In most cases, port authorities don't even bother to check them twice. An Interpol report in August showed how big the trash network was. In 2016, the plastic recycling market was valued at almost $35 billion. By 2022, it is expected to become a $50 billion industry. And the big money is attracting more and more criminal organizations. Most organized crime groups infiltrate the waste sector using their legitimate business as a front. The garbage often ends up in developing nations that are not equipped to handle it. And the result is this: heavy pollution in the countries where the waste is burned and dumped. The Interpol describes this as crime-driven pollution. Tunisia has raised a stink. Developing nations cannot be the dustbin of the West. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
The Christmas cheer is in short supply in the United Kingdom this time. There is fear over a new strain of the Wuhan virus. Most of the country is still under strict lockdown. All gatherings, festivities have been banned or restricted. There is a growing chaos at the Dover port. Thousands of truck drivers and passengers are spending their Christmas on the road. Military troops have been deployed to help clear the long queues of lorries. And Prime Minister Boris Johnson has a special Christmas present for his citizens.
This is the Dover port in England. Some 10,000 trucks trapped on Christmas Eve. Stranded drivers appeal for help using traffic cones. Officials say the backlog could take days to clear. Europe's busiest trucking port is the picture of post-Brexit chaos. The deal is finally done. The clock is no longer ticking.
It is fair, it is a balanced deal, and it is the right and responsible thing to do for both sides.
Then why this jam? It's because France closed its borders with the UK to avoid the mutated Wuhan virus. France banned all freight arrivals from the UK, closed the ports and the Channel Tunnel for 2 days. The ban lifted on Tuesday. 3 days on and the mass gridlock continues on the English side of the border. These people have been left with no food, no water and no idea about what is happening.
I'm sleeping in the bus with children, with girl, with woman pregnant. You know, it's so bad. It's very, very bad.
Well, I hope the government let me jump on the ferry and they keep going over the Christmas home. That's what I hope and what I wish to every driver. You know what I mean? But, you know what I mean, if they don't let me go, I will spend the Christmas here. So I don't have a choice.
Is the chaos just a COVID restriction issue?
This is not only COVID, this is part of the Brexit problem. And Dover always suffers all the time. So that's why I would like a clean break, because this paperwork going back and forwards, where do you draw the line?
The Dover mayhem is a stark reminder of how dependent British trade is on the English Channel. Boris Johnson's so-called Christmas gift is yet to bring much cheer. The new year may bring more clarity on what life in a post-Brexit Britain looks like. For now, they must grin and bear the fresh lockdowns and the uncertainty that comes with Brexit. The Prime Minister sends his best.
By the way, tonight, on Christmas Eve, I have a small present for anyone. Now for the sprouts, and a happy Christmas to you all.
Bureau Report, WION World is One.
It's not just the UK, it's a quiet Christmas around the world this time. The Wuhan virus has forced people away from the streets and Christmas markets into their homes. The churches are near empty. Midnight masses barely have attendees. Gatherings are online now. Feasts have been scaled down and the shadow of the pandemic looms over season's greetings. Here's more.
It is a season unlike any other. Christmas this year is silent. The music is mostly confined to churches. Gatherings have moved online. Many midnight masses have been cancelled. Bethlehem's Manger Square was almost empty on Christmas Eve. Nativity Church rung in Christmas with a crowd lesser than usual. In the United Kingdom, Prince Charles and wife Camilla joined a star-studded poem recital. Italy's famous Trulli limestone huts lit up with lights of hope. Moscow had a white Christmas. Santas climbed down hospital walls to greet the children. In Spain, an 85-year-old left the nursing home to celebrate Christmas with her family. In neighboring France, grandmas braved the virus to join their loved ones on the dinner table. In Bangkok, a diving Santa spread Christmas joy. Out spreading joy was also a canine co-pilot of a Colombian taxi driver. This year, the Pope's Urbi et Orbi was unlike any other. He mentioned the pandemic and called for even distribution of the vaccine.
Today, in this time of darkness and uncertainties for the pandemic, several lights of hope are appearing as the discoveries of vaccines. However, for those lights to lighten and bring hope to the whole world, they must be made available to everybody.
The vaccine also found a mention in US President Donald Trump's message.
The President and I want to wish every American a very Merry Christmas.
During the sacred season, Christians celebrate the greatest miracle in human history. More than 2,000 years ago, God sent His only begotten Son to be with us.
As you know, this Christmas is different than years past. We are battling a global pandemic that has affected all of us.
We are delivering millions of doses of a safe and effective vaccine that will soon end this terrible pandemic and save millions and millions of lives.
While Trump was praising the vaccines, one socially distant Santa was spotted surfing in Florida. But the message from Santa was to stay at home.
Now is the time to relax and to spend Christmas with your loved ones.
Bureau Report, WION World is One.
On that note, it's a wrap. Wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching. Leaving you as always with Gravitas Images. See you on Monday.